I'm Tammy K. Welcome back to another tutorial on my channel. I wanted to teach you guys how I painted these pretty loose irises today. And if you can take a look closely, you can see there's some shimmering happening. We're going to be trying out some finishing paints by Shimmerz. And these were sent to me. It's a family-owned business. We even have some cute little paint sprays as well, so we can do that for a background. And we're just gonna play around with it and see what kind of things they gave for you guys to find out about, and you can find their paint linked below if you'd like to purchase it as well. So let's get to it. All right, so today I am using my Christy Rice brushes, and I've got several sizes here. So this one I'm dipping in the water is my number 12 round brush. I also have a beautiful 3/4 inch dagger by Christy Rice, as well as some other brushes that I might throw in there and use as I see fit. So it just depends on if I want larger petals or smaller petals. And I just kind of like to improvise here. I am going to use the dagger brush, and what I want to start to do though is darken up my water. Yes. You heard me correctly. So the reason I'm doing that is because this tinted water is going to help you guys see the tinted petals that I'll be painting, because we're going to work a little bit wet on wet right here. So I'm using this book as a composition reminder. I'm not necessarily copying what's there. All right, so we're going to start, let's see, darkening up this a little bit more. Okay, so you should be able to see a little bit of what I'm doing here. And I'm just painting in that top petal. It's kind of that teardrop shape with a nice little kind of triangle at the top. So I'm keeping my brush really loose, you guys, reminding you every step of the way just to breathe. There's a little bit right there you need to fill in. And reminding yourself that this is supposed to be fun. So as this petal is wet, you guys, and I'm spraying down my palette because I did not spray it enough at the beginning, I'm going to dip into some purple and some blue here. We're going to do wet on wet and just allow these colors to start spreading. So I've got several different purples, and if you want, you can dip in your water and grab different colors, some blue in there. It's really fun to work wet on wet because your edges are just going to be billowy and soft. So we're doing that bottom petal now, the same type of a teardrop shape, a little bit wider, and we want to make sure that this petal stays nice and wet so that we can start adding in the other colors and they will spread quite nicely. Now, I do leave a little space in between those petals right in the center so that we can add in our yellow to complete our beautiful iris once everything is dry. So I'm going to grab some blue, and you can see that I'm just dipping in with my brush into that paint and using a pretty concentrated amount, especially because things are wet. Since it's mixing with water, it's going to be lighter when it dries. So I just like to go around and, kind of smooth things together. So we're going to be using the Shimmerz paints, like we said before, to give some accent and some details to these flowers, which I'm excited to do. All right, so of course we're adding in what I like to call the little arms, those petals that come off the sides, and just going to wrap around, curve around. And then we're going to do a couple more at the top. Now, often when you're looking at an iris, you're going to see that those two little ones at the top, sometimes they're curved up and sometimes connected around with the top petal. But these ones are starting to unfold a bit. So you can see I've got some pretty concentrated paint on there, as well as some lighter areas too. And so just have a lot of fun. Painting wet on wet can be so stressful, and it can also be very relaxing. It just depends on your mindset. So we're going to go with the second iris here. And she's a bit lower than the first one for the composition's sake. And just following the curvature, the same thing we did before. And now we're going to do that larger bottom one. Sorry guys, I'm still suffering through a cold. My voice is weird. So I appreciate you guys still being here despite the scratchiness and all the things. So adding those side arms in. When you start to draw and paint irises, they seem really complicated at first, but after a while, you just start to see that simplicity of the shapes that you put in. So I left those two upper arms just up and kind of tucked in with the top petal so that it just has a different look than the other floral that we just put in. So adding in some pinks here And then I'll want to put in some purple as well. I do want these two flowers to look very different. So don't be caught up in making everything matchy-matchy or in the composition being the same as mine, or even the petals being the same length, the same style, the same shape. Go crazy. Do unique and different brush strokes. Like here, I'm going a lot darker than the first one. And just, playing and having a lot of fun with it. You can see that bottom large petal that I just put in, that paint is starting to really spread and bloom. And I think it looks quite gorgeous. So the paint is going to do what it's going to do. Just go with it. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself this is fun and it's relaxing and this is good for your mental health. So I'm adding in my stems with some pretty concentrated medium green paint. So we'll add the second one in. I really love the contrast between those beautiful greens and then the nice blues and purples and pinks of the florals. So I am following that little book with the composition, adding in some buds here. So a thicker bit, and then we're going to keep that space open right here so that we can put in the actual buds. You can see that color of the purple in there. And we're going to do a few more over here as well as I'm going to add in some leaves. So we'll get to that soon. So I want to encourage you guys, if you're enjoying this, to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you don't already, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on my videos in the future. Guys, I have so much fun over here. If you didn't know, I'm an artist. Of course, I'm that, I guess. But I'm also a mental health therapist, and I love to mix self-care in with what we're doing. My whole big shtick is reminding you guys to paint for joy, for fun, for enjoyment, for relaxation, for self-care, but also not to worry about perfection. We have so many ideas of what we want things to be like. I want you to enjoy the process, not the perfection piece, not the end result, although that is good when it turns out well. But I want you to have fun every step of the way, guys. And using bright, bold colors just brings happiness to your eyeballs. Using color palettes that make you happy is going to be a game changer. So paint how you want. Don't paint how you think you should paint. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So as we're adding this in, guys, I want to remind you that linked below in the description, I have all kinds of fun stuff. I do one-on-one sessions. If you'd like a video call painting session with me, you can schedule one of those. I have Patreon memberships, even like an original paintings grab bag that I just started. There's an art retreat coming up in the fall in Italy, and so many fun things. So definitely check those out. My Skillshare classes as well. You can peruse those for free for 30 days with my code below. So anyway, check them out and let me know in comments if you have any other questions. I love chatting. I love hearing your thoughts. So guys, I've used a variety of greens here, and I've gone kind of those medium tones here. I didn't want to go really dark or really light. So just adding those beautiful bright greens in, some leaves to really brighten up and loosen up this landscape and make it really pretty. So now is the part of the video where you can see the Shimmerz paints. You can see how they shimmer. I was playing with the color. They have some spray bottles as well as these little containers of paints, and I've selected 8 of them here. I will use some of them now just to fancy up this composition. So I have allowed everything to dry, and now I can safely and accurately start to add in some of the details. So that's one tip. If you are frustrated because you're adding layers and details over layers that are still wet, make sure to let them dry, be patient, or use a hairdryer, heat gun, grabbing some of this really beautiful shimmery purple paint. And I'm just going to make the lines of the iris now. Sometimes I will use the back of the brush and I'm going to swap out for a smaller brush here, some little lines that the iris has. You can use the back of your brush to just etch in while the paint is still wet and make some lines, but we're using the shimmery paint to do that today. Sometimes you just gotta go really fancy and enjoy those moments, enjoy that fun. So what I do like about this paint is there's a lot of these beautiful pearly colors with the shimmer in them, and it gives a really nice accent to whatever you're painting. They are lighter. A lot of them are lighter in nature. A lot of them, at least the ones that I received, have pastel colors. So I like to use the other paints that I have for that base color and then go back in with the Shimmerz paints and just fancy them up a little bit. So I've got a really nice kind of aqua color here. They all have fancy names. I cannot remember all the names of all the palettes that I own, so I just kind of refer to them by their common names. And so we're going to add in a little bit more green here just to make it fancy and to have that little shimmer. When you are using creative products, you end up feeling more creative and you end up creating art that is more artistic and creative and brings you more joy, if that makes sense. I just think that so often we kind of get bogged down with the rules and we forget to experience beautiful things that are out of our comfort zone. For example, the palette I was using previously at the beginning of this video has a lot of neon colors. I've never worked with neons before, but when I opened up this palette and used it, I realized I actually really like neon colors. So experimenting with things that are foreign to you and new can really open up a new creative side that you may have never knew was there. So adding in that nice bright yellow to the centers now that everything is dry. And I want to check in with you and ask you, how are you feeling? Are you feeling stressed or nervous at any point? If we check in, we can kind of remind ourselves to relax, enjoy this process, and just be. And that's something that we have a hard time doing in our culture. We just want to be going and doing all the things we have to do, focusing on the to-do list, and we forget just to be in the moment, having some mindfulness, and experiencing the pleasure of painting in this example here. So I'm just continuing with my layering. I have one iris that is much more bold and colorful, and the other one that's a bit more subdued, and I would like to add some more pizzazz to the second one, and we'll get to that. But I'm just trying to find little moments here and there where I can darken some things up, where I can add a little bit of texture and shadow and some really nice interest as well. So some people ask me, when do you know that a painting is done? As I am getting this nice gold spray ready, and I'm just going to spray it all over because we're going to use this in a really fun way. I would answer you, when you start to ask yourself that question, you're probably done. Taking some of that water and just spraying or spreading that paint around to create this really beautiful light gold background. I don't usually do a wash on my floral paintings, but today I thought that spray would be perfect for that. If you wanted to keep the spray how it is, that's fine, and just have that splatter. But I really liked the idea of just, mixing this together. And of course, some of the splatter is still there. I'm not mixing everything, but it just gives a really beautiful look, a nice light wash in the background, just for contrast with these beautiful blooms today. So as we're finishing that up, admire your painting. Think about the work that you have done, how hard you have worked, what you have done to get to this point, and just be appreciative of every brush stroke gets you closer to improvement. We're not looking for perfect. We're not looking for complete mastery, although that would be fun, but we're always learning. We're always growing. There's always so much more to accomplish. And don't stress yourself out. Just keep practicing. Remind yourself you'll get there one step at a time. All right, friends, we have painted our loose irises today. I hope you had so much fun with this. Reminding you that you can still sign up for my art retreat in Italy coming up this fall. I do one-on-one sessions now as well if you're wanting to take an art lesson from me, or 2 or 3. Patreon, all the membership stuff for exclusive content, all those things are there and available. And don't forget my Skillshare classes. Those are all linked below, 30 days free if you're new to Skillshare. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I will see you soon. Happy painting, happy mental health.